All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Ayin Gimel, Ayin Dalid, finishing up Ezen Neshech. I think actually even tomorrow Bezos Hashem will finish. All right. So we left off at two lines from the bottom on Ayin Beis and Beis Tan Rabbah. So remember the number one thing we were going to be discussing forward contracts. Or be paisek, right? The person goes ahead and makes a deal for futures. So let's say Mark is my merchant, and I want to go ahead and buy produce and apples, and he doesn't have it yet. So I said, okay, Mark, here's $100, and you'll give me 100 apples later on. So for $100, and then it turns out that I give them $100 now, and then actually later on I get 120 apples. For the same price because the price changed, but we made a deal for the amount of apples. So therefore, in that, as I gave them the money now to give me, to pay that amount for later on. So it looks like I'm getting. If I would have just taken the apples earlier, I would have only got 100. But because I didn't receive my shipment later on, and Mark had the benefit of the money, it could appear that Mark perhaps is giving me more apples because of that. So that means we say that one cannot do a forward contract, right? Unless the markets are set, as stated in the Mishnah, or unless basically Mark has those apples, and basically those apples are like mine. They're just not delivered to me later on, and delivered to me when those 100 apples are delivered to me, they have a value of $120. So turn around, Rabbanim. Two lines in the bottom of the nine days. So a person's going ahead and he's taking a bundle to go ahead and sell from one place to the other. Says even though the place over here, so Alan is he wants to go ahead and sell this his box of Gemaras or whatever, right? His box of Gemaras here, and over here will fetch $100. Over there, it'll give $150. So it says, oh, let me go ahead and I'll give you the $150. So if it's Bishus Meicher, if it is in the place of if when I go ahead and take them, is in the Mark, Alan is taking the risk, and if something happens to it, then basically Alan's out of luck. Then it's mutter. Why? Because that which I go ahead and even though I'm giving the money now, then I'm going out and selling it, later on. It's really acting as an agent for him because Alan really is taking all the risk of the responsibility of the product. However, but if it's in my rishus, right, I'm the one who bought it from him and gave him the $100, right, the money now, right, more than they're worth in the place where I gave it to Alan, only to go ahead and to go a farther place and sell later on. So then it's usher because then it's like I'm taking it. Then it's like Alan because he's because in that case there's he's paying a higher price for getting the money now. And Hamalich pays Magal, one who goes ahead and takes fruits from one place to the other. To namely, go ahead and I'll go ahead and take it right here. And I'll give you my fruit with the same apples. I have apples, but my apples are 2 miles away. I'd rather just have these, and I'll give you later on. Image pays mutter, then it's mutter. Vim lav. If not, then it's usher. Then it's usher because the case of sabasa, right? We know sabasa is forbidden because when it goes ahead and gives him 10 pounds of apples now, and give him 10 pounds of apples in a month from now, that could be it's like he's giving me interest because he's giving me more value in apples, and therefore that would be usher. And those people who are like the truck drivers, the donkey drivers, even though because what they do is they go from one place to the other and they take orders and they have money and they go ahead and they buy the product. They're like the middleman, so they can go ahead and basically give a discount, right? They can give it for the cheap price, right? Even though it's in the right? Even though they're where they can sell it for, they discount to the cheap price. That is mutter to get the money now. Why is that? So my time, right? Because by them having cash, if they get their cash from their people, then they go, and even though they gave a discount for getting their money up front, right? The reason why they do it is because to show the suppliers, right, that these truckers or these donkey drivers have cash and they'll do business with them. So therefore, it's beneficial to them, right? They're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it to the other guy, but rather they're doing it for themselves. And Ravacha the Ravika, the Musigabayu. Because the what's it called, the people who give them will give him a discount because they have cash. And my benayus or seems like the same there. So what's the difference between the two cases? Ika benayu tager chadasa, right? A new merchant won't give him a discount, but any merchant will, if he sees he has cash on hand, then Ravacha's teretz won't work. But the people who see the cash, then they'll do business with him even if they don't know him. And Basura, Ozli Arba, McCaffrey, Oz, and Shisa. So in Surah, for $1 or for a zuz, right, you get, let's say, 4 pounds, right? You get 4. And in Kafri, they used to go ahead and get 6. So Yayiv Rav Zuzei Lechamre, so Rav gave over to the donkey driver, so he gave him, right, in this place, so he gave him, V'kabbalah unsa, so he gave him $1, V'kibbalah unsa d'orcha, and he was makal upon himself. If anything happens in the way, in other words, you just gave him, he gave him money. If anything happens to it on the way there, then he'll accept any sort of responsibility on the way there. And then he took 5 later on. So even though it was 4 over here, he sold him for 5 because he got the cash now. So the question is, first of all, we just said, right, that you're allowed to go ahead, Chef, thank you, you're allowed to go ahead and take the higher price. So why did he not take, why did he take 5, not 6? So our answer is Adam Chashiv Shani, because he was considered to be an Adam Chashiv. So he didn't want to, right? So he didn't want to show that he's going for the higher price. So therefore he basically wants, even though he did get some benefit by giving to him, but he also took another precaution by taking. Well, no, I went there. He wasn't there. So in such a case, so even though, and not only that, but there was another chomer he took by taking responsibility if anything happens, because we saw that earlier. That was the first case we saw. So by minute, is Begutros came. What about scrap metal? So the whole issue is over there, when I go ahead and sell apples, even for the higher price over here, and I'll get more in return, it's because that apples are available in the other place for more expensive prices. So therefore, it's always available. But what about scrap metal, which is not always available? So Amarle Bikesh Rabbi Yisrael says Ken, but he wanted to go ahead and do such a case. In other words, pay for the sell for the higher price in order to get the cash, right, and be able to go to the market. He wanted to do that with linen clothing. The Rabbi didn't allow it because linen clothing were not necessarily always available. And he could some say Bikesh Rabbi Yisrael saying Baruchos Ken. He wanted to do a scrap metal also once again, and it was not mutter. What about Pardisa? You want to go ahead, and I will go ahead and buy. I will give you a contract on your field. You go work your field. You have this vineyard, this pardes, this orchard, and I will give you $100,000 for whatever you yield, right? Whatever it is, right? So the guy would do it for a discount, right? I'm selling all my stuff, even though it might produce 120,000. I don't care. I'm getting 100,000 up front, basically guaranteed. So Rav Asar Ushmul Shari. So Rav Asar came to the Kamei Shabbos. So he says, Lamaisa, since it's going to be 120,000 at least, so it looks like the reason why he's getting a discount is because he's waiting for his reward. Agar Nutter. In other words, what is that? He's giving him 100,000 now, right? And he's getting 120,000 later. So it appears like it's because of the loan that he's getting more. I gave him right the beginning of the harvest season, and he gave me the end. So it's like I lent him the money, and therefore he's paying me back on the loan.
So that's I don't know it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's all risk. It could be paying 80,000, and that's not. I mean, that's not why I do business. You don't know it's going to be good or bad.
Did they call you Shmuel? Let's see. Shmuel Shari, why came there? To you all like mix like you're not today. He says, right. I actually, yeah. Because I had this yesterday, the Daf Yomi yesterday. Literally, Harry Friedman said the same exact thing. I said, the next day. So you see, in this case over here, Shmuel says, no, there's a risk here. In other words, there's a risk. It might be 120,000. It might be 80,000. It could be 0. It could be 200,000. He's taking a risk. So therefore, since he's taking a risk, nothing is guaranteed. So therefore, the Lamaisa, it's not because of his giving him the money up front, Aganatar. Rather, he's taking a risk, and therefore, for the risk comes reward. And Omar, right? So he says, If the case is, let's say the field is plowed by oxen, then there's a lot of risk that often cause damage, and there certainly is a bigger risk in that case. And even Rav would agree that there's risk in that case, and therefore even Rav would say that would be mutter. It says Rav also. I don't know. It's a little note by the Rav, but yeah. I guess when there's more risk. Right, but this is not Ribis Petutza, right? This is
not. Anything that has a guaranteed price. But you say $100,000, there's no Ribis.
No, that's not the reason why it would be.
He basically invested in them. Right?
No. So right, is it an investment or is it the fact? Correct. So, but for an investment to be mutter, there has to be risk, right? They can't. There has to be a case of perhaps losing, right? But once again, there's not a shaila of Ribis Petutza, which is deraisa, right? There's only midrabanan. If it's agar or not, there which would be midrabanan. And Amar Lu Shmuel Lahanu Shishmi Shavashka. So Shmuel said to those people who were, I guess, they used to go ahead and give seeds to sharecroppers. He says, "You should go ahead and work a little bit of land. It's a little bit, even though you give them the seed, the seed, and then they pay you back more. Do some work in the land. Then it'll be mutter. Then it's like you're just lending him seed and it's getting back and sub a sub. But when you go ahead and you do some of the work, so then you're investing in the ground, and therefore, even though you might get more value back, i.e., the same seed but say more valuable, nevertheless, you were part of the sweat equity side, and therefore be mutter. Rabba said to those people who guard fields, go ahead, and in addition to watching it, even though at the end of the season during the threshing, go ahead and do some threshing on the flesh of our in order that basically your work should not be done. Now, basically, you're waiting for money, and then when you wait for money, you get paid at the end, and you maybe get a little extra money. It looks like because you waited for your money back, therefore you got more money back. Therefore, continue working. Do a little work now, so your work does not end. Why? The scares need to go out the scares is a little bit, and therefore, scares the only work is only at the end. And then, when your work is done, right, the last day when you continue to finish working, that's not to get paid. Then, if they give you extra money, it's a bonus. It's not because you. But if you waited, you stopped, and then you got paid a month later, then you got extra money, then it looks like interest. But if you work all the way until the end, and then you get paid the extra bonus, it looks like it's just a bonus. It's not interest for waiting for your money.
Well, it's all question steers to begin with. Does the steers seem like it's a loan that you're getting money extra for because you're paying extra? Because your steers is different.
Well, since he's working. Well, in this case, he'd be he'd be working for him, right? So he'd be working since he's working. Right. Right. Correct. Right. We'll soon get right. Different. Right. Exactly. Right. We'll soon get to that. Let me see. Right. So over there, Rabban the Rabba, Koachil Mar Ribis. So they said to Rabba, they had a claim against Rabba. It says, "Oh, Mar Master, you're the one who's going to eating ribis." The Kuli Hamashaki Abba Misaki Larisa Ben Yisad. Everybody goes ahead and they get let's say they take 4 kur of their grains or their produce, right? And then they remove their sharecropper, right? In other words, they get paid. They remove the sharecropper in Nisan, right? The first of Nisan, let's say, 2 weeks before Pesach. However, you say, you know what? You don't take your produce yet. You wait a month later, right? Till ER, right? Till now. And then you get six kur. So it seems like because you're lending that money for an extra month, you're taking 2 extra. So it seems like you're taking ribis. No. You guys are the ones who have the issue. Why? The land, it really belongs, right, or is worked and has really the controls under the sharecropper. And as by you guys removing him earlier, i.e. in Nisan, you're minimizing the amount he can go ahead and produce the field. Ana Nitarlu ad Iyar Bekama. Me, I allow him to wait till Iyar, which the produce is even that more, and therefore, yes, I do get more, but he also gets more. So in other words, you guys are acting inappropriately, nothing to do with interest. So you're just kicking him out early, and therefore you're hurting the sharecroppers. Bottom line, but by me, I allow him to work later on, and therefore we both go ahead and profit. And Rav Mari, so now comes the case. Top of the page, I can give him a base. So Rav Mari Bar Rachel Mashkele Nachri Besa. So Rav Mari in this case, he lent money to a Nachri. All right, he lent to Nachri. So the Nachri will be Bab. And so Rav Mari Bar Rachel lent Bab money. Bab had a house, and so in order to secure this $100,000 loan from Rav Mari Bar Rachel, Bob says, you can use my house until I go ahead and pay you back. Meanwhile, there's happening the Rafa. So Bob sold that house, right? You guys, he didn't have a lot of money, right? He sold that house he sold to Rav, right? And he wanted, even though it was used as a collateral, never Rava was able to he owns the house. Right? In other words, once the loan is paid, then he'll be able to go ahead and get that house. So now that Tracy Shako Aga Besa, Amtile the Rava. So what happened? So Rav Mari waited 12 months, and then he went ahead and paid, right, the first month's rent to Rava, who's now the new owner. What's going on here? So I'll just give the background, and then we'll see in the Gemara. So we'll see that in the case of now, remember, if one goes ahead and uses it as collateral, right, and then you just for free, and until the loan is paid back. So that's an issue of ribis. That's only when a Jew to a Jew, Yisrael to Yisrael. But when it comes to a Nachri, one is allowed to go ahead and hold on to the collateral and benefit from the collateral until the loan is paid. Okay. Now, there's another thing as well. There's 1 year. 1 year was you weren't allowed to go ahead and remove somebody within the first year. So therefore, referring the first year, basically Rav Mari was guaranteed the use of this house. So that's why. So he waited until after the first year, and he started paying rent on the month after the 13th month. Because why? Because now there was a Jewish owner. You can't use it for free. So he says, "Oh, I got to go ahead and give Rav a payment because now, unfortunately, this house is not owned by Bob anymore. The Nachri, it's owned by Rava, and it wasn't paid back yet. So they were an Ayin Gimel on the base, right? And therefore, I got to go ahead and pay it back." So I'm like, hi, the reason why I didn't go ahead and pay now this time, because Mashton is at least for a year, and he couldn't go ahead and remove me. But now go ahead and take my 13th month. Go ahead and start taking rent. So Rava said to him, if I knew that this house was pledged to you, I wouldn't have bought it right now. Why? Because now, right, with their halachas, according to their courts, right, you don't have to pay rent at all. But by me buying it, I hurt you. You now have to pay rent, even though you lent the money. Now you got to pay for the uses of the house. So therefore, what? He felt better, right? He says, so therefore, right? So he says, right? And therefore, I don't want you to be in a worse position. I will not take your rent until your loan is, you get your money back. Then you'll start paying, rent for me, unless you give me back the rights to the house. I'm sorry?
It'll take him a year to figure it out. All these 12 months he hasn't been paying rent.
Well, but why did Ravi not figure it out?
But the guy converted while
No, he did not convert. I don't know. He's out of town. I don't know. All right, good question. Could be yeah. All right, good question. So Amarle Rav mi Barnish Lavashi. So it says Chazi Mara Baran de Koachel Rabisa. Look, the Rabban are eating ribis from the top of Ayin base. So they go ahead and they give money for wine during Tishrei, right? They give in the beginning of the season in October, and then they go ahead and they take their wine in Teves. So he says it's not an issue. He says no. So what's the issue now is when you go ahead and you buy stuff. If I go ahead and buy barrels right now, and I get my barrels of wine now in October in Tishrei, right? So by the time the winter comes, some of them might turn bad, right? Not all wine goes good. Some of them have, the enzymes from the vinegar, and therefore it goes bad. So, but over here, they're giving him money, and they're getting later on in January, whatever wine he's going to take is going to be good wine because they'll know by then which vinegar, which wine. So therefore, he's basically guaranteeing himself 100% wine. So it seems like you're benefiting from paying money earlier and the thing later on. So he says, no, they're giving money for wine. They're not giving money for vinegar, right? And therefore, right, when one gives money, and even though something sours and turns into vinegar, didn't change. It didn't start as wine and turn to vinegar. Rather, it was always the vinegar. And therefore, he paid for wine, so he receives wine. So therefore, it's not an issue. And therefore, at that time, it turns out that during Tishrei, that was, when they selected it, and I was like, Lemafre, they went back and says, these are the ones that we bought during Tishrei. So he used to go ahead and give money to the people of Akra the Shnafsa, the Shavchile fake Kufisa. And they used to go ahead and give him a little more than he paid, right? They would top it off, they would give him more extra. So also the Ravashi, Amalei Bishari, is this mutter? Even though you lent the money, or as you gave him money when they poured you later on, they gave you, but they were Michael. They gave you wasn't part of the stipulation, wasn't part of the agreement, and therefore, if they wanted to go ahead and give you a gift afterwards, they were able to go ahead and do it. So Amar Lei also he says Ha'ar lav diduhi. So, but the land, right? Land is not in cases where people go ahead and take land, it's not theirs. So Amar Lei Ara la taska mishabda umalka. Right? So he says, no, land is not stolen. Land is, even though somebody doesn't pay their taxes and people go ahead and buy it at the tax sale, nevertheless, the king basically owns all the lands. And the king says, whoever pays the taxes, he's the one who owns the land. So therefore, no, it's not considered to be stolen land. It is land. If you pay the tax, then you're the one who owns the land. And number later, we see people that they pay people's head tax. In addition to having land tax, there's also a head tax each person had to pay, right? So, and people who didn't pay their head tax, they owed money. So other people paid for them, and then says, since I paid your head tax, you got to now work for me. So I'm late. So how did he do this? He said, Hashti, the good thing I didn't die, because had I died, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that which I heard. Hakim Rav Sheshes, this is Rav Sheshes says, Marikani Dahani Betafsa the Malka Monach, right? Everybody, right? The king basically lives under the king's control. Well, Malka Omar, the king says, Mandala Yav Karga, the Shtab Karga, right? Everyone has to go ahead and pay their head tax. And he who does not go ahead and pay their head tax will be Mashtabi to the other people who go ahead and pay their head tax. And Rav. So Rav Suram Achved the Rava. So Rav Suram was the brother of Rava. They used to go ahead and basically take the people who used to hang out the street corners, people who are up to no good, and say, you know what, you guys, you're in charge of carrying, Rava on his big chair, whatever it is, through the crowds. He was older, he couldn't do it, so he'd be carried into the base medrash. Ein Gimel and base. Right over here. Eddie.
Oh.
You'll be on Gimel base.
I keep looking at it.
So you drink more coffee,
Okay.
you'll wake up.
Yes.
A little lower down. 2/3 of the way, 2/3 of the way down.
Okay.
So he said, so he got these people who hung out the street corner to go ahead and carry Rava's chariots. Amarle Rava Shepikov. So it's good that which you basically take these people who are up to no good and put them in these jobs. The Tanina, we learn in the Brayos. So if you see somebody who's not acting properly, how do you know you can go ahead and work from Tamalemar? So it says there you can go ahead and work them, Goyim, right? You can be mishtabi them, and even your brethren who don't what's it called, who aren't acting appropriately. And Yachla Filanoi Kashura. You might think even someone who's acting kashura, you can put into this demeaning work. Says over there, you should not go ahead and put to work. So let's say someone made a deal. I gave money to a friend, gave money to Avrami to go ahead and to go ahead and for me to South Bend and buy the special wine over there, right? They got wine that's a good deal. And Avrami, I gave him the money, and he didn't go ahead and buy it. So Mashalim and Avrami says, I'll go ahead and I'll buy it. If I don't, I'll find it even at a higher price, but I'll give it to you at this lower price. Right? But so nevertheless, you'll take a loss. Now, they're selling it there for $90 in South Bend. And he said, okay, if I don't buy it, I'll give you for $90. I'll even buy it for somewhere else for $110. So in that case, so he has to go ahead and give him that amount, right? So the cause of parts of the Zoshafat, right? So he has to go ahead and pay whatever it is. And give it to him at that low price, like the price of the shafat that was like, I guess, in the place. So he goes, you had to go ahead in that place to purchase at the lower price and give it to you for the lower price, even though you had to pay more for it. So Amar Amim, Rabbi Yisrael Shmait say, "Kamei Rav Zvid." He says, "For Rav Zvid, made a hard deal." Amar Ki Kamar Rav Chama. When the Rav Chama say this, that he has to go ahead and this agent has to say it. Sahari Mili b'yayin stam. When he says yayin, just go ahead and buy me wine from this town. But if I say this specific store, you got to go in, ask for Martin, and tell Martin to sell you his best stuff. Below, then Avrami or the shliach doesn't have to go ahead and do it. Why? Because who says the guy's going to go ahead and sell it to him? It's not guaranteed. In other words, Avrami's going to try and buy it from him. If the guy doesn't sell it to you, then he's not going to get it. So therefore, it was not guaranteed. It wasn't the fault of Avrami's negligence for not going, because maybe even if he went, he wouldn't have taken it. And Rav Ashi Amar, Afilu Yain Sam, even wine, and he tells the guy who sent him, hey, if I don't buy it, I'll give you the wine for that amount. Namilo, he also doesn't give him my time. What's reason? Because of the smachta. In other words, when Avrami says, I'll go ahead and get you for the cheap price, and if I don't go ahead and give you for the cheap price, I'll reimburse you the difference, right? Avrami has nothing to gain there. Right, so he's just saying it because he's going to do it. He doesn't believe he'll ever have to come out of pocket to go ahead and do it. And that's why I said that's a stuff, and therefore a smach the loikana. So Gar says, "I love Ashi, my shnama the Tanan. What's the difference between that which we learned? The Tanan im oiver v'lo avid ashalim miteva. A guy says, okay, I'll lease your field, and we'll split 50. If I don't go ahead and work the field, then I'll pay for all of it. So." Why does that? So why does he owe in that case, right? So our answer is no. Hasan biyado. Over there, the reason we say in that case is because he chose not to work the field, and therefore he didn't work the field. So therefore he decided to do it. Therefore he's held it. However, hacha la biyado. Right over here, it's not necessarily his fault because even if he would have went, right, like we said, the seller has to also agree to go ahead and pay for it. And Amar Rava, top line of Ayin Dal Amad Aleph. Amar Rava, this is today's daf. Hani Beitlasa, the Avi Zuze Lechad, the Mizvan Lahu Midi. So let's say three people tell me, say, oh, yo, you're going to Milwaukee, right? Get me those, what are those bakery things that they sell always in Wisconsin? It's like a white box. The what?
Krispy Kreme?
No. It's a big one. But yeah, something like that, whatever. So, right. So yeah, some Danish. You're going to there. So you buy me a Danish, right? So three people give one guy money. The Chamiz is a little meeting. The Zav and the Chaminayo. So he's supposed to buy three Danishes, and he only bought one. So Zav and Kulu. So he bought it for all three of them. There's three of them split it, and even though each of them gave him $10, or each of them gave him 30, or right, each of them gave him $9, right? So each one gets $6 back, and they share a third of this Danish. That's only if, right, they all zelled him the money. They zelled him the money. They put it, they wasn't distinguishables altogether. About tzad v'chasim but each one gave him a package of $9 in a sealed container. And then I get ahead and I get to the store and I forgot that I only bought one. So whoever's bag I used to go ahead and pay. So therefore, whoever was fortunate enough that I used their money, their $9 to go ahead and purchase it, he gets the entire Danish, and the other two bags I did not purchase for, and those get returned. And Amrav Avi Mishmei Derava Hai Situmas Kanya. A seal, person goes, let's say, in a wine store or something, and he puts a seal on a barrel that he wants to buy it. Kanya. So it works, right? He's kindness. So the Mai, for what do you mean the Mai? So Rav Chaviva Omar, the Mikna Mamish, it's Mamish a Kenyan, right? Same way a person, acquires a barrel by picking it up, right? He does Hagbah or Mashiach or do something to the barrel. So too, putting on his seal. But no, the Kibula Mishapar. No, you put on a seal, you didn't acquire it, it's not yours yet. But if you renege on it and you don't go ahead and you don't purchase it, then you get cursed of the Mishapar. The Kibula Mishapar, and the halakha is if you put a seal on it and you don't buy it, you didn't really acquire it, and therefore you only receive the curse of Mishapara. But places where the minhag is by putting a seal on it, that is your way of acquiring it, then he has acquired it. Fine. 2 dots. Now, so we said over there that a person to do a forward contract, right? For forward contract, gives him the money now to get the produce later, the product later, and the product might go up in price, and therefore it looks like that it appears that he's getting more than he paid for is because he allowed him to have the money before he purchased the item. That does not, if the market prices are set, right? In other words, we assume that the price will not change, and therefore there is no real, benefit of waiting for the product. So therefore, it doesn't appear like a loan. Then we mutter. So it says not until the harvest is done and the kite stream, the people who follow up those harvests until their markets are set and the market is set of the for those who've harvested. And Amar Rav Mechusar Shtayim Paisek. So now then we said that as long as the guy has it, even if it's still in bundles, right? Now you don't sell it in bundles, you have to go ahead and sell, the wheat. You got to take out the chaff and all that. So you do all that. So Rav says that mechusar shtayim, if it's missing 2 processes, then paisek. Then that's considered to be like you have the product, right? That said biyado. It's considered like you have it, and therefore you can supply it. However, shlosh is 3 processes. In other words, we had the other condition was, as long as yeshlo. In other words, I can go ahead and sell you for you to get delivery on a later date, as long as I have it in stock, like you bought it right now. It's just yours sitting in my garage, and I'll deliver it in 2 months. Okay, so therefore, it's only if the product is sitting in my garage, which requires less than 2 actions. But if there are 3 actions, all this work I have to do, then it's not considered to be yeshlo.
We also say that if it's available in the market in general, that also.
So I would say if it's not available in the market, but yeshlo, available in the market means also the market, the price is set. But over here, the price is not set, but he has it. He has the product, even if it's not in this final stage. So we're saying, what does it mean not final stage, right? So one says it can only be lacking 2 actions, not 3. We'll soon get into it. If it's something that just depending on the person to work afilumea, even it could be 100 actions. However, paisek, then he could do it. However, b'dei shemayim, but let's say he needs b'dei shemayim. Let's say he needs the sun, or he needs the wind, or he needs something that's not controllable. Afilu achaz in a paisek. Even if it's only 1 action, but he's depending on Hashem, right? Then that doesn't work. That's not considered to be like yeshlo because I still need that to occur, and maybe it will never occur.
In other words, there are apples on the tree.
The Gemara's going to get into the case, all the specific cases. Our Mishnah did mention several cases. So tonight, let's look at the Mishnah. It says, Gadish. So he's allowed to go ahead and go ahead and make a condition on a big stack of grain. So first of all, it's missing. You have to put it out in the sun for it to dry. Let me dash to thresh on it. And you have to go ahead and winnow it, right? So Gemara says no. We're talking about, in other words, with these stacks of grain were already dried out. Therefore, it's only missing midash and midra. So Gemara says I the shmol davar b'dei shemayim afilu achas ein apaisei but shmol b'dei shemayim b'ay because of mudra b'dei shemayim. Winnowing, right, allows, right, it blows out the chaff, so you need the wind to assist, right? So if you need the wind to assist, so according to Shmuel, that's not considered to be yeshlo. The answer is no. Efshar b'nafasa, right? You can do it with some sort of sieve or something to go ahead and cause wind, and then you cause wind, right? Then therefore you're able to go ahead and winnow it, and it's considered to be the other. and also a vat of wine of grapes. Right. First of all, you're missing it for it to go ahead and ripen. Then go ahead and bring it to the oitzer, to the press, to the midash of the mingar, and you go ahead and press it, and then you have to go ahead and draw it and from the large container and into the barrels. Or answers now to the Tana Rebbe Chia. Over there by olives, as we'll soon see, we're talking about ripened olives. So over here, we're talking about the grapes are already ripened. So okay, they're already ripened. We listed 4. So it's still 3 actions. The person who buys it, he's the one who draws it from the vat. So therefore, there's only 2: bringing it to the Eitzer and doing the actual treading upon it. And also a vat of olives, right? Same thing is you have to go ahead and ripen, and you have to bring it to the press. You have to actually press them, and then you draw the oil out afterwards. So once again, we're talking about where it was already they're already ripened. Okay, so how you get to last is 3. Once again, the person who goes out and buys it, he's the one who goes ahead and takes the oil. Also the pottery balls of the ones who I guess make the clay. So Gemara says, first of all, he's missing the shaping and the viushe, and to go ahead and to dry it out, and yule latuna, to go ahead and bring it to the kiln, right, to go ahead and heat it up, and to go ahead and burn it, and and to go ahead and take it out. So our answer is now called the mavshi v'yavshi, right? We're talking about a case where they were already shaped and dried out. So you get to last 3. So our answer is the person who goes in and buys it, he's the one who goes ahead and takes it out. And then finally, we said seed and also limestone, right? Person's limestone, you go ahead and sell them sort of the raw limestone. Once it has basically sunk into the kiln. We're missing cases of where he has to go ahead and burn it, and he has to take it out, and then he has to go ahead and break it apart. So our answer is right? The person who goes in and buys it, he's the one who crumbles it. Therefore, there's only 2 processes. But according to Shmuel, says even if it's b'dei adam, then he either have 100. So why is it that once it's already in the kiln, right? Even if it's not, it should be even before that. So Gemara says, in other words, once it's ready to go ahead and be sunk into the kiln, but it doesn't have to be done yet. And also for the balls from the potter. So Taner Rabbanan 8 paiskin al beitzim shel yetzer ad shiyasu. You can't go ahead and make any sort of forward contracts unless they are already formed. And then once the balls are already formed, then they're ready to go. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That was the opinion of Rabbi Meir. There's a machlokes after us in the Mishnah, and on Rabbi Yosi b'met dvar murim b'yafar lavan. We're only talking about with the white, using the white dirt. But with the dark dirt, like the area of Kfar Chananya, right, and those around it, or Kfar Shichin, or Kfar Shichin, and the surrounding neighborhoods, then Paiskim Afal Pishen Lazeh, because the Afar Shachor was was very common, and therefore, even if one didn't have it, somebody else had it. So Gemara says, so he would go ahead and give money, right, for that, even and after they already had it. So Gemara says, come on, Mayor, if it's like your mayor who said, right, it knows Achiyasu, Achiyasu, right, Achiyasu. So why, as the actual seller has to go ahead and have it. And he got Yaisi, Almar Alpha Pishen said, Yeshazed, but of course, Rabbi Yaisi, right, even if this one doesn't have it, somebody else has it. So the Rabbi Yosi, really, it's like Rabbi Yosi. You could really rely on someone else having it. However, the place where Maimer was, right, they didn't necessarily have so much dirt there, and therefore. So if he actually had brought the dirt and he just had to go ahead and make the balls, then he would have had smichas das that it would occur. However, the and therefore he give him money. However, the ilo, but if not, the loy samchadaiti, then he wouldn't have gone ahead and give him money. So therefore, a Maimar waited till they actually had the product, even though they didn't go ahead and finish it up. Fine.
Didn't they have Amazon?
Good question. So we saw in the Mishnah, you can go ahead and make a condition on the Zevel, right? You can always do it throughout the year. And let me just find the Mishnah. The Mishnah said, this is the Mishnah. All right, it says, Zevel, Elim Kain Haisa, what's that, right? That was the first opinion. Rabbi Yosef until he had it. Zevel b'ashvel. Chachamim says mutter. So Chachamim says mutter, and the Tanakama seems to say paisikim ala zevel kleimas hashana. So Gemara says, Chachamim hainu Tanakama. Isn't Chachamim the Tanakama, right? That Mishnah is on Ayin Beis Mades, right? So he says, Chachamim hainu Tanakama. So I'm a Rava. The Rava says, page. You might say no, there's really different three shitas. The first sheet is when it comes to Zevel, Tanakama says you could always do it, right? This is always available. Doesn't matter where, when, what, how. It's always available. You can make a forward contract on Zevel because if you give me the money now, that's what I can pay for it now. It's like I already bought it from somebody else, and therefore I can provide it for you, right? I'm just too lazy to deliver now, so therefore you get at a later point. Even if it goes up in value, it's just because I didn't deliver it, right? But you had it the entire time. The second opinion is the seller has to have it, and the Chachamim. So they say, no, if it's in during the winter, you must take a shamim. So then the manure is not really available because it's still getting tread upon and it's still becoming the fertilizer that it wants it to become. And therefore, it's not really readily available. So therefore, according to the Chachamim, in the summer, it's always available. You don't have to have it. In the winter, you have to have it because it's not always readily available. Fine. Two dots. Then we said, so let's say you go ahead and make a forward contract, and I say, okay, I'm buying apples now. Here's $100 for apples, and I expect, I want $100 of apples, and right now I get 1,000 apples. But the price goes up, I could get 1,100 apples, right? In 2 months from now, right? So pay the money now. Let's say give them $100 now. Let's say all of a sudden the price goes down to 900 apples. So someone says, here's your 900 apples. So we said in the Mishnah, if the guy makes the condition,
He gets 900 apples, basically, I don't know, he gets 1,100.
no, well,
Apples are the currency, yes. I pay $1,000.
right.
It's $100 for.
So right now, $100 buys me 1,000 apples. Okay, if the apples get more expensive, and that's what I meant, right? But correct, right? If the price goes up, and therefore I get less, right? So now, in this case, so let's say the guy's already paisik him on. He says, "Hey, if it's worth at least 1,000 apples or 100 apples, whatever it is, I forget what I said already, right? $100 for 1,000 apples, right? So that I want at least 1,000 apples. More than 1,000 apples, I get that. Otherwise, I want no less than I'm giving you, because right now I'm giving you 1,000 apples because that's what my $100 is worth right now. So give me 1,000 apples back later on. So either you give me a win-win, right? Either you give me my 1,000 apples because I'm giving you $100 now, which is equal to 1,000 apples right now. Yeah. All right, then pay me back the value of these 1,000 apples in a month, right? So if the value of these 1,000 apples now, right, go up, then I want that. But if the value of the 1,000 apples right now, which is $100, only gets me 90 apples, right? Inflation, right? So then I want my 1,000 apples back
because the price of apples goes up.
Got expensive, less, correct. So now, so the Chachamim said you have to make that condition, you make that stipulation, it works.
But someone wouldn't want to do that. It's lose for him.
Well, he wants to do it because he wants the money now, right? So, he can use it to invest in other things, right? So we said you have to make that condition. If you make the condition, it does work. So, right? So, a certain person, he gave money to go ahead, and he gave it to somebody to go and buy a dowry, basically to buy something for his daughter. So a chassan watch, right? So he goes ahead and he gives money for a chassan watch, and he actually gives it to his son-in-law. Here's money for a chassan watch, and go be my messenger. Basically, go ahead, or we'll soon see, and go ahead and buy and buy this for me. Buy this Nadunya. This basically, let's say it was a piece of land, right? This piece of land for me. Go ahead and seize a piece of land. So or produce or something. So the Saif is Nadunya. So in the end, so he paid money for it. He didn't get it right away, and later on, that object became cheaper. In other words, right? He was able really to get more, but he made a bad deal. Right, the same zol the dunya. Also, coming up, I'm like, if you made a condition that that in other words, you get either one, the higher end, then you could take what the current price is. At the higher price, you can get more. If not, shakal kiyikar. Then you have to go ahead and take according to the original. Right. So he was buying it for his daughter to bring into the marriage. So we'll soon see. But the ironic thing was he was using the services, right? His future son-in-law was already working. So he basically, right, gave him
You can't trust the son-in-laws.
right. So he said, right, he gave her to go ahead.
You hired Albie to start with her already.
Right. So you hired. So basically, you hired him to go ahead and purchase this for this Nadunya. So over here, I guess it was jewelry to be brought into the marriage. Right. It'll be, I guess, jewelry into the marriage. So that was something that was part of her Nadunya. So, I'm going to pasuk shaku kimikara. But I understand if he didn't make the price, he has to go ahead and take it at the original price. So Mos Ninu, right? Umos like Kanu. I understand he only gave money, right? And money doesn't acquire, right? So if you just gave him money, he was supposed to get jewels, right? So, but the jewels, right, went down in price. So just take your money back. You never made a kinyan on the jewels, right? So take the money back. So Ananami the Kibula Mishapara Kamina, right? So yeah, in Akanami, you're right. He didn't acquire it, but what are we concerned about? You don't want to be somebody who was Mishapara. Say you're going to buy something or give the money and then retract because you get cursed, right? You should, be paid back for being dishonest. So he says like this: if he basically said, okay, I'll take the jewelry if it goes up in value, then I made a good deal, and if it goes down in value, I'll take for the price, for the value, the original, right, for the lower price. So then the seller is the one who's being and then in other words, the seller doesn't want to go ahead and do it. So therefore, he doesn't want to sell it because now he can get more money for it. And he just made a bad deal because he took the money early. He doesn't want to sell it, so then he gets the curse of Mishapara. However, you let possible, he didn't go ahead and make a condition, and you don't want to go ahead and pay because now you overpaid. Then the buyer is he's the one who's being chayzer, and then the buyer is now violating Mishapara. So I'm going to Ravina Rav Papa. Who says we're going according to the Shita of the Rabbanan who argue on Rabbi Shimon? And what is this machlokes over there? Domini that they say over there, most like kanu, that money does not acquire. In other words, we're right now going on an assumption, right, which we have throughout, which is the Gemara goes to, that money doesn't acquire something. Rabbi Shimon holds that if you want to buy something, right, and you give me the money, I'm selling, and I take the money, you acquire that item with me taking the money. That's Rabbi Shimon. Maybe we're talking about the sheet of Rabbi Shimon here, right? And remember, he gave the jeweler the money. Right? He gave the jeweler the money, so maybe the kinyan does work. Now, what are we talking about? And nevertheless, even though if he made a condition, right? And now so he said there, nevertheless, if he made the condition, it says I get the lower price. Then he takes now, and ilo pasuk shakal meikara. And if he didn't make a condition, he could take like the beginning. So who says that? Dum Rabbi Shimon, Dum Malos Kanu. Marriage with Rabbi Shimon that says the money does. V'chi pasuk kishar gavoa shakal v'hashta, and ilo pasuk shakal meikara mishim dekani yaduzuse. Maybe we're talking about that he, in other words, that he acquires it. In other words, he did acquire it. Right, but we're not talking about Mishapara, we're talking about acquiring the object, and therefore he does acquire it. So goes after Rabbanan, Bein Pasak, Bein Lo Pasak, Shakuki Hashda. But according to Rabbanan, whether or not he made a condition, he could take at the lower price, right? The Zila, because the person doesn't give. Well, the only reason why he gives that money up now is to make sure that if the price goes up, I'm not going to pay more than this, right? But if the price goes down, I want to go ahead and do it. I'm not going to go ahead and buy it, right? If the price will fluctuate, if the price will go down. So therefore, according to Rabbanan, that's what it means. That is that a person won't even violate Mishapar. Samalei, Emadama Rabbi Shimon Torah. When Rabbi Shimon says the most acquire something, it's only if the price doesn't move. In other words, this is the value of the price. You give me the money, I acquired, and you go ahead and get it now. However, but Tari Miyamar, who says that Rabbi Shimon holds that money acquires it, even if it's something that he'll get later on, where the price fluctuates. If you don't say that, so Misha Para Rabbi Shimon, let's say, because according to Rabbi Shimon, Misha Para would never apply to the buyer, because Misha Para means, right, you give money and then you take the money back. It says I'm not buying it. But if you give the money and it always acquires it, so then where's your Misha Para? You say, okay, big deal. Maybe according to Rabbi Shimon, the buyer never violates Misha Para. So it says, nevertheless, this halacha, but the Chum say Mishapar. So my Mikol Makom. What does it mean? Lav Delosh. Is it not Delosh no Lokach Delosh no Maker? Makabel Mishapar. That we see that in other words that nevertheless we see that the Mishapar does apply to both seller and buyer. So Alaki Kamar Rabbi Shimon Bechatari Betray Tari Amar. Right? Rabbi Shimon says when Malchus Konos is only when it's one price, but when the price goes up and down, he wouldn't say. So therefore, in our case. We're referring to the Rabbanan and referring to it being Mikal Mishapar. The Gemara says, based on the case, Amar Lei Rav Acha Berei the Rav Levashi, I the table of the Shlif L'Shavi Meikara. Maybe say that the father-in-law only made him his shaliach, and therefore he was not, really acting, by himself. So Amar Lei Betagar the Zavin the Mazavin. So he says over here, no, we're talking about where he actually was the merchant. That was his job, who goes ahead and buys and sells. So a few more minutes. So therefore, okay, fine. So and therefore he was the actual merchant. He was as a shaliach, and therefore it wasn't him doing it; it was the father-in-law doing it. Rather, he was the one. He was buying it from the. He was buying it for himself. He was a merchant. Mishnah says, "Mal be'adam es arisa chitin bechitin lezera." A person is allowed to go ahead and lend his sharecropper's seed and get back seed, as long as it is for planting, right? It's for seed. But not to eat. In other words, there's two things that are used to wheat is used for, right? It's used for replanting or to plant, to grow more wheat, or it's used as a final product to go ahead and eat. So as long as you're doing it to your one sharecropper, you can do it for only planting, but not to eat. Malbes Arisa Chitim he used to go ahead and lend the Chitim Bechitin Lazera only for planting, and Bayuker Behoslu, even if it was expensive, it went down, or it was cheaper, then it went up. Nightel Mehan Kashar Hazu. He would always take it back according to the seed, the value of the seed for the cheaper price. For not because he had to go ahead and take it down. Rather, he wants to be machner on himself. So let's just see a little bit of the Gemara.
If you're talking about the value of the seed, why don't they just say if you can give a person 10 pounds of seed, you get 10 pounds of seed back?
Well, right.
It shouldn't matter what the price is.
Well, but let's say the 10 pounds of seed that I gave you, right, had a value of $100. That it changed. But that's the argument of Sabasab. I'm giving you 10 apples, you give me back 10 apples. That's great, but the 10 apples you give me back they have more of a value. So therefore, maybe that's right. That's the loan. You pull that over. But that's the whole thing with Sabasab. It's midrabanan, right? It's not the Raisa. So Tanrabanan Malva Adam es Harisim Chitim Bechitim Lazera. Person go ahead and lend his sharecropper wheat in order to plant the Medramurim Shalo Yarab when he did not go ahead and begin working. But once he goes working, then also he can't go ahead and lend him seed. What's going on here? So Maishna Tanadi Ben Yarab Ben Yarab. First of all, why did our mission differentiate whether he started working or not? Well, Maishna Tanabara to come afli Ben Yarab Ben Yarab. And why did this other brisa differentiate between the two? Samarabba says Rabbi Idi Asberli Nilai. He explained it to me. But also the Tanadi Don in our Mishnah, in the place of our Mishnah, Arisa Yayu Bizra, right? It was the minhag of the sharecropper to go ahead and put in the seed, right? So Bain Yarad, Bain Lo Yarad, Kam Lo right? And therefore, in other words, it's on him to go ahead and supply the seed. And therefore, he whether he started working or not, right? As long as he didn't go ahead and put in the seed, he can go ahead and not work, because he was supposed to invest the seed. If he didn't invest the seed yet, then really he didn't begin. And then once he goes ahead and then he wants to go ahead and make a deal. Now, when he lends him the seed, right? So at that point, then he could basically say, look, you're supposed to be supplying the seed, right? I'm giving you the seed, so therefore I'm now all of a sudden I'm part of the sweat equity side, not just the money man, right? So therefore maybe there's a different deal. So but in the other brisa, really the money is supposed to, or the seed is supposed to be provided by the owner of the field, and Elo Yarad, right? And therefore, if he hasn't started work yet because he didn't put the seed there, then he can go ahead and remove him. However, so therefore, but when he goes ahead and he starts to go ahead and work, right? He is now start now is when he goes ahead and he makes a deal with him, right? So he's making a deal, right, on his own, because he doesn't need to go ahead and negotiate and borrow and give more of a cut to the landlord, because the landlord is supposed to be doing it. However, but if he began, when now the landlord can no longer kick him out, because he says, he can't say, well, you didn't put the seed in yet. Well, he says, yeah, because you're supposed to buy the seed. Then it would be usher. Then in such a case, it will be usher, because then in that case, it appears that the landlord is supposed to be going in and providing the seed, but now him going ahead and lending the seed and getting more of getting a better deal, that would be forbidden, because that looks like, since he's lending him seed and getting later on, therefore he's getting a better deal out of that agreement, and therefore there'll be an issue of ribis in that case.
Aha.
All right, we'll stop here. Shkayach, what time is it? 8:28. Leave you guys.